So here we are. Please give a round of, well, we just gave a round of applause, but why not give another one for Dee Wu, VP of Data Science at Jellyfish. She's going to talk about how Jellyfish uses experiment to measure media incrementality. Welcome, Dee.
Hear me? Hello? All right. So I'm so glad to be here. My name's Dee Wu. I'm the VP of Data Science from Jellyfish. So we have a cool company name, and we're also fun bunch. So come talk to me between each talks. How do I control the? It's over here. Okay, just a little bit about Jellyfish and what do we do. So we're a digital media agency, so we manage our client media. We have 2,000 people globally, and we're managing over billion of media spend for our clients, and we're top tier for major platforms like Google, Meta, and Amazon. We have many global offices, and recently we did an acquisition with the Brand Tech Group. Now we have 7,000 people globally. So at the center of everything, we're doing a lot of data and tech stuff, and our mission is to help our client to run their media better, faster, and more efficient with the latest technology. And we have a number of very exciting things that is coming up. We have a hackathon that is happening this summer and actually next week in Paris, and a co-funded event with Google. And we have a very exciting announcement coming up in the Gen AI space as well. So there's a lot of excitement in terms of data and AI. And today, whoops. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about measurement and experiment. I know that we're talking about AI, and AI is a big topic and very hot at the moment. But I wanted to say measurement is such a bread and butter that for building the ecosystem for our marketing and advertising ecosystem, and it's so important. What is a measurement? So measurement is a process of evaluating and quantifying the media effectiveness so that we can enable the advertisers to have making better decisions and making sure the campaign effective and making sure it's successful. And you probably heard many different measurement solutions, such as attribution, A/B testing, and incrementality. And today I will be focusing a little bit more on the incrementality side. So a little bit of history that we know, marketing started thousands of years ago, probably from a Mesopotamia, kind of an Asian kind of culture, right? And in the 20th century that we see the involvement of media in a very fast pace. At the beginning of 1930s, we see the radio and TV advertising in the 50s. So that's make it possible for a lot of broadcasting rating and a lot of media kind of testing, marketing testing become a very, very hot topic at the early part of the 20th century. that we're very familiar today that become actually popularized in the 80s and recently become a more popular topic because there's a constantly evolvement of the, the landscape. And what happened in the 90s is the emerging of internet and the biggest invention of the cookie, which is setting the foundation of the digital marketing today. And that allows A/B testing and the large-scale testing and experiment becomes possible. And then after that, everything is in the fast train, right? So we see a fast emerging of different marketing platforms like social media, like Snapchat, TikTok, like all that kind of stuff. We see more data, right? We're collecting more customer data, internet of things, like all that platform, make it very possible for the advertisers to start to building more stronger and better measurement tools. So in the past 10 years, we see attribution modeling, right, based on the game theory that is basically evaluating how to best attribute credit to different marketing channels. And now, we're again finding ourselves in a time of change and evolution. So we're, it's a very, very fast coming for the cookie deprecation. We're increasingly see the walled garden scenario for different platforms. We continue to see new media formats like stream TV, STV, those kind of formats, short, YouTube Shorts, right? And the advertisers, they demand for measuring better of long term and how to measure that effect. And of course, the advancement in marketing, in measurement solutions. This is very sensitive. So basically, we have many different measurement solutions. We have a diagnostic and analysis, like MMM, everybody's familiar with. Just wanted to do a quick survey to see how many of your organizations are running MMM. If you raise your hand, that's awesome. That's great. And wondering how many are you running MMM in-house, or do you have third-party MMM providers to run that? In-house? Yes, great. And of course, there's the optimization and incrementality, and also curious to see how many of you are running incrementality or and whatever experiment in your organization. Great. And today I'm going to be talking about incrementality and primarily focus on the GeoLift experiment, which is a special form of the incrementality test. So what is the GeoLift experiment? So we have to talk about A/B testing, right? A/B testing is essentially when you're talking about website, you want to measure website effectiveness, you have version A and version B, right? Then you send that traffic to different cookie or user level to measure that effectiveness. And the GeoLift experiment is a special version of it. So instead of going to different users, you are using aggregated version, which is aggregated on geo. That has a great advantage today because the user level data is more difficult to get, so that we'll be able to, we don't have to collect the user data, we can just collect the aggregated data, right? So in the GeoLift experiment, we treated each geo area as the unit of measurement instead of on the user level. And of course, within the test and control group, we should be making sure that they all have very similar trends, so we have a homogeneity within the test and control group. So the process, of course, we need to design the test, which is probably the most important part of it, to making sure we have a solid hypothesis and a setup for the test, then launch the test and also post-test analysis. So next, I'm just going to show a couple scenarios. The first scenario is that prove the value of existing media. So AG is one of our clients, so we're running media for them, and they're very well-known brands, right? They're selling very comfortable and fashionable boots. So of course, they have a very established brand with a huge brand equity, but at the same time, they're running the brand search campaign. As you know, brand search campaign is expensive, but at the same time, the attribution model tells the client, because it's a very focused on lower funnel tactic, so it's very efficient. But at the back of our client's mind, there always has a question, right? If the brand search campaign is so expensive, and also they have great brand equity, people are gonna convert and they're gonna buy their product anyway, can they pause that campaign? And instead, if the organic traffic would be able to pick up during the period, that means they can actually more effectively spend their media dollar to other channels, increase conversion, and also new clients acquisition, right? So that's a great plan, but in order to do that, we have to prove it out with an experiment. So how are we gonna do that? Whoops. Okay, thank you so much. So basically, what we're gonna do is that we wanted to do like a go dark design. So essentially, we split to test and control. We keep the control as business as usual, and the test area we did like a go dark period. And the methodology that we adopt is called trimmed match, which is developed by Google. And how does that work? Conceptually, it's quite simple. So 4 steps. So the first step is to create GMA area. So what is GMA? GMA is Google's marketing designated area, which is very scarce, and we're looking for outliers, and those pairs potentially a bit like a mismatched with each other, and we're gonna trim them from those geo pairs. And those trimmed pairs would not be used in the geo experiment. And the last part is the most important, which is essentially randomly assign the test and control for the geo pairs. And this would enable the random assignment, and that is the foundation for the RCT, which is a random control trials, and which is a golden standard for the experiment. And another thing I wanted to also talk about is about incrementality, right? What is incrementality? So incrementality is trying to basically solve the problem of, what is the impact, what is the real impact of marketing actions? And by doing that, we're looking at to establish the causal relationship between the action and outcome. And in GeoLift experiment, we're measuring basically the lift of our ROAS, which is incremental ROAS, which is a little bit different than the traditional, the ROAS is that you can see from the screen, right? So we have like revenue as a total revenue, and then we have the incremental revenue. So incremental revenue is basically the type of revenue that would be lost without ad spend, without action, right? So if we basically say we're gonna take off, that is gonna be the revenue that lost. And the rest of the revenue would be non-incremental revenue. And the non-incremental revenue would it could be basically the halo from other marketing area that is not evaluating at a time. It could be also just pre-existing customer demand. So that contributing to the non-incremental that's gonna be there with and without ads. And here is a kind of a mock of the results. So what we basically ran in the GeoLift experiment, we find a brand PPC result in 4.6 ROAS. So what does that mean? For example, if the client stops spending 10 grand in PPC, that means they're gonna lose direct incremental revenue of 46 grand. It's huge. And the other part is that we also ran additional analysis. So we look at Google Analytics data to monitor the organic website traffic. So what we found is that during the dark period, the organic actually picks up, but didn't completely the overall traffic. The last thing is that we're using the competitor tracker from a more Jellyfish proprietary tag called the J+ search. So that would be able to track all the keywords from our competitor brands and platform. And we're also noticing the uptick trends during the go dark period. So basically what this is saying is that if the client wanted to kind of go dark with a brand search campaign, that means, unfortunately, organic won't pick up all the traffic, but also some of the small competitors, they might kind of scoop in and take off some of their traffic, which is bad news for the advertiser to turn off the PPC. So that's what we learned, and we also replicated this result in multiple other clients, and we find very similar trends. And another case study we are talking about is going to be looking at new media launch and how do we evaluate the value of that new media. Of course, our brands always like in the test, they're running new kind of like video formats and whatever, right? So if we go to the next slide. So Yves Rocher is another of our clients. We have long-term relationship with them. Of course, we know them, right? They're selling very natural, very botanic, and sustainable cosmetics. And so they wanted to launch this DOH, which is the Digital Out of Home campaign. And this first time when they're running this campaign, so they don't have any historical data. And they don't have any historical data. And another challenge is that because it's offline media, so there's no digital tracking of the people who's viewing that screen versus the people who's buying product in the online and offline form. So what we wanted to do is that we wanted to tell the client, run a campaign, tell them, if DOH is a good strategy, we want to launch a small scale campaign, measure the impact, so the client can learn something so that they can make a decision whether they want to scale that campaign to more geolocations. And if we go to the next slide, is that we picked a methodology called synthetic control, which is from Meta. So what's the difference compared to the trimmed match? So trimmed match, as we know, it's a form of RCT, which is a golden standard for experiment. However, not our client would have the type of budget to kind of launch for like a national kind of campaign in the form of the trim match methodology. And in this case, because the client wanted to run, because it's new media and they want to only run on a small set of geos. And that's where the synthetic control is a better methodology for this case. And what it does is that essentially it takes, we need the control and test geo areas, but we need to use the controlled geo to come up with a counterfactual that mimicking the trends of the test geos. And as we saw on the top chart is that we basically take up to a year of historical data and we construct the counterfactual from the control geo. And from here that you can see like from pre-test period, the test and control, they're pretty much on top of each other. They're very close. And the only difference is that during the test period, when we're implementing the new DOH campaign, where we will only see the difference, and that's a lift that resulted from that campaign. And another feature from this tool is very, very useful, which is the power analysis. So with the power analysis, effectively we're running a simulation before even running the test. So that in that way, we can get three things. We can get, they basically simulate all the geos so that we can pick the most optimum geo that can give us the most likelihood to have like a success trial. And the second one is the spend level, which is super useful for the marketing team to planning out the campaign. And the third one is the effect size, the kind of potential lift that we'll be expecting from the experiment. So the results, we find a direct impact between the DOH and offline sales, which is great. We also dig a little bit deeper, right? So we're also looking at the DOH located in different locations. We found that when the screen is located in the shopping mall, it is 1.6 times higher on ROI compared to the screens located on the city street. And another one is in terms of distance between the screen and the store location. We find like within the 500 meters, there's a positive relationship, positive uplift for where people see that screen and they went to offline, they went to the store and made the purchase. But the effective of that relationship is gonna reduce if it is continue to increase more than 500 meters. So basically, this is very good insight, not just from like a testing perspective. So the client would be able to take what we learned from this, they can take to other geos, and they'll be able to kind of using this strategy to plan better for their next campaigns. So today we're running so many this kind of incrementality and experiment for many of our clients. We have a higher education, like retail, in different parts, and also financial clients as well. So we have many learnings with the years of experience. So the first one is that we think it's really, really important to set the client expectation early on the project, because not all the project gonna have like a positive kind of outcome. The negative is also a good learning, and also sometimes other factors would prohibit the test to be successful. And also most important to work closely with the marketing team in terms of understanding what marketing campaigns are launching from like a local and national perspective. And also the third one is the client always asking us, is it possible to measure multiple factors at the same time? Because of some clients that are running at the MMM model, they wanted to understand, can we fit like different channels in one test? So it's also very important to consider the trade-off of fitting more factors, but also making sure the test is robust. And the last but not least is building the trust. Is super important in everything that we do at Jellyfish. And I think like a building a learning agenda is really, really important, where we see that our client who's implementing this test and have a better kind of test and learn cultures really has a much better like a performance from like a media perspective. And also like we see, it's not just from us, it's also from, the industry, the research paper. They also show a very positive link between people who's running more experiment and a more increase of the ad performance. So I talked a lot about experiment, right? But the experiment, I would say, it's not the one perfect solution. It's not gonna solve every problem of marketing. And our point of view is that we need to look at marketing solutions in a more holistic way. Experiment, as I said earlier, there has a lot of different limitations. We can't fit all the different tests in one, and that could potentially limit how many things that you can learn in 1 year, right? So there's like constraints of budget and constraint of time and schedule. So what we're doing here is that looking at it more from causal impact analysis perspective to augment the experiment, but also looking at combining all the different measurement tools to kind of solve the client unique challenges. There's also a lot of new things that is happening in the MMM space. So MMM is really, really useful from our perspective. It will be able to provide, higher level kind of like insight from a strategy and planning perspective. And also MMM would be able to provide some hypotheses and new ideas that can be used to test from like experiments so that we can have more robust results. And also experiment could also provide some input for MMM and could also help to calibrate MMM. So lots going on and a lot of exciting things that is coming on in the space of MMM. We're also doing a lot of that. Also, like we have a talk this afternoon. Suri, who is the chief data scientist from PepsiCo, who's actually going to give a really good talk on MMM, so stay tuned on that. Any questions?